You're listening to episode 74, Jessica's Story, a son with Prader-Willi Syndrome.
With Ryan, we knew probably by third or fourth grade he wasn't going to get his high school diploma, and we accepted it because one of the gifts of special needs motherhood is a shift in priority and perspective and purpose, and you just want your child to be happy, safe, and stable. And I don't mean you just like throw in the towel, but we knew that it wasn't necessary to just push and make sure he got a high school diploma. We just want him to be happy. We just want him to be stable. We just want him to be safe.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Child Life On Call podcast. I am Katie Taylor, certified child life specialist and your host today. This is the first episode without the beautiful intro that we have done for 73 episodes. So word on the street for podcasts is that people are tired of intros. They just want to get to the good content. And I'm typically not a follower, but the main reason we have this podcast is for parents to not do a lot of work to feel connection with other parents. So if my intro is keeping you from getting to the bulk of these conversations, then I'm happy to get rid of it. But it is going to live on my Instagram Reels. So you can go, or I think it's IGTV. If you go to Child Life On Call Instagram, you can hear my intro anytime you want. So if you're here today, I'm so glad that you are. I get the chance to interview Jessica Patay. And if you follow me on Instagram, this is when I did the stories a couple weeks ago when I was basically in tears in my closet. And let me tell you why. So Jessica is the type of person that is really intelligent and does a great job of articulating the ins and outs of what her son's diagnosis is, the day-to-day struggles that they have. But on the flip side, she's equally as skilled at telling you what is inside her heart and what it feels like to be a mom of a child who has special needs for 18 full years. So I was emotional throughout this episode, especially towards the end, when she just adds so much value to not only my life, but I know your life because you're listening. So make sure you stay for the whole conversation, get comfy, and I'm so honored to introduce to you my friend Jessica.
Hi, Katie. So good to be here with you.
Glad to have you.
Thanks for having. I'm just happy to be with you. I'm such a fan of you and all that you're doing, and there needs to be more of you, Katie, in the world.
Well, I feel the exact way about you, and the fact that our paths got to cross through the Facebook group that we met about being podcasters in this area, and you do so much more than a podcast, so I can't wait for us to hear more about that, but I'm just glad I got to know you now, so glad you're here.
Thank you. Well, I am talking to you from Palos Verdes, California. So I am in Southern California. It's Los Angeles County. And I have been married to my husband, Chris, for 24 years. And we have 3 kids. Luke, who is 20, just finished sophomore year of college. And then I have Ryan, who is 18, and he has Prader-Willi Syndrome, which we will talk about. Mm-hmm. And Kate is 15, almost 16, and I'm so glad I got my girl.
Oh, yes. And I like her name. I think you did a good job with that.
Thank you. Yes, I think so too.
So today we'll be talking about Ryan and then also kind of how he inspired, this amazing company that you've created, organization, We Are Brave Together. So if you could take us back to the beginning of your story with Ryan, we'd love to hear kind of just what the beginning was like for you.
Sure. Even though he's 18, I can go back to those days so fast. I had a normal pregnancy. I had a normal delivery, and when he was born, he barely cried. I remember thinking, he literally came out of me, no complications or problems during labor and delivery, and he cried for maybe 5 seconds, and that was it. And I thought, oh, well, maybe did I get just a mellow newborn?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we got kicked out of the nursery when I had Luke. So wow, what a change.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor said, it's a girl. Oh, it's a boy when Ryan was born. And I thought, how do you make that mistake? That's so interesting. And we didn't know the sex of our baby because we found out with baby number 1 and we decided not to find out with baby number 2.
Yeah.
And so I thought that split second of, oh, I didn't get my girl, because I really wanted a girl after having a boy. And right away, he had some medical issues. He had trouble breathing. They whisked him away. And he looked skinny for a newborn, but he did not look, to me, really any different than Luke. He was only 1 pound less than Luke, but they were treating him like a preemie, and they kept asking me, are you sure you're full term? I was absolutely sure I was full term.
Yeah.
So we spent a month in the hospital not knowing what was wrong. He could not cry. He could not suck. He didn't wake for food. And he didn't cry when his diaper was wet or if he was uncomfortable or tired or overtired. Nothing. Nothing. In fact, Ryan didn't cry his whole first year of life. So I lived on the peds ward with Ryan for a month. And in the meantime, I'm dating myself. This is before smartphones. I had a flip phone in the hospital. And I think there were only 2 nights that I slept in my own bed that month. And I refused to go on the internet. But my husband did. He looked up the phrases that the clinical professionals were telling us: failure to thrive, undescended testicles. So that was why there was that, oh, girl, boy, because his testicles were undescended. And he also had hypotonia, so low muscle tone. Chris entered that into the computer Google search and found Prader-Willi Syndrome. And so he asked the doctors, could you please test? And 3 doctors said, well, he doesn't look like it, because there is a look, not as significant as Down syndrome, but there is a look. And we said, I don't care. Just test anyways. It's a blood test. It's not, it's not harmful. And we don't have any answers, so you might as well. So because Ryan couldn't suck, we were working with an OT in the hospital. And they were doing gavage tube feedings. And then they were doing the nasal tube feedings. And I was pumping around the clock. They were giving him calorie-rich formula, hoping that he might wake up. And he didn't. And I just said, I've got to go home to Luke. Poor Luke was 2.5. Not knowing where his mom was, visiting every day at the hospital. We were trying to make it as palatable as possible. Yeah. Family was helping, friends were helping, people were bringing us food. It was an intense month. And I just said, give him the feeding tube. We've got to go home. I have to go home to Luke. So he got a G tube and we went home. And about a week later, we got a phone call from our pediatrician confirming the diagnosis of Prader-Willi syndrome.
Wow. My gosh. And so there's so many questions I have. And one is just about your statement at the beginning that you said you can just immediately go back. It's been 18 years to those first months. And I'm wondering, is it difficult for you to get back into that space? Or now that you're 18 years later, do you feel a little bit removed? Or is it like you're just thrown back in there?
I have talked about it so much, Katie, that I can detach. I can go there and explain everything and explain Prader-Willi syndrome and keep going. But if I like right now, if I were just to sit and marinate in it a little bit and just really visualize being there, visualize the night we got the phone call, I could get teary. I could get teary because it brings it back, because no mother wants their child to have anything wrong with them. And so it can still push those grief buttons.
Well, I just find you so amazing for being willing to honestly come here today and share this with us. And like I've said before on the podcast, and I said to Jessica, this is, really for those parents in those initial moments who I hope can listen to Jessica now and hear where she is and hear about Ryan and just give a little bit of hope and perspective about when you're in the nitty gritty. It's so hard to see out. But you're here
today.
It's
really hard to see out. I am. And I have all my parts, and I'm here and I'm strong and full of hope and truth and stories and triumphs and hard times, and celebrations, all of it.
Can you talk a little bit about the older sibling? Tell me his name again.
Luke.
Luke, that's right. Tell me about when you finally got to go back home to Luke. What did it feel like to be in the house with Luke without Ryan there?
It was barely any time. So out of a month, maybe 2 nights.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a blur. It's kind of a blur. I think I was so glad to be there and just to be with him at home and try to be normal. I was trying so hard to just be present, but I think I was so preoccupied.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because it's also the emotional exhaustion. And you think about, you just had a baby too. You'd been pregnant for 9 months. You're sleeping in a hospital chair. I don't know if you guys got a chance to meet a child life specialist during your stay at those early moments, but one thing that I try to advocate for families is somebody to knock on the door and say, like, do you want to go home and shower? Like, what can I do to get you there and make you feel like Ryan is going to be taken care of? Maybe I can't guarantee that somebody's going to be in here for the full 60 minutes, but I can come in and check every 10 to 15, and I can get this person to come on the opposite 5, like giving you that space and confidence in the healthcare team so that you can take a shower is something I really try to advocate for.
That's beautiful. That's so needed. I don't know if we had a child life specialist or if it was a social worker that may have checked in on me. I was so lucky, blessed that I had a bathroom.
Yeah.
I had a bathroom and a bed.
Yeah.
And Ryan and I had our own private room. We just happened to get it at the moment that we needed it, because I don't think there were very many on the peds ward. We weren't in the NICU. We were on the peds ward.
Yeah.
And because Ryan was just a sleepy, easygoing baby, I could jump in the shower real quick and know that he wasn't going to be, screaming, needing me, and I knew, and he was also properly monitored, that if something were to go wrong. But I wasn't worried about his life, even though he had a lot of wires. I wasn't worried that he was going to pass away, because nobody was telling us that he was that fragile. It was really about the low muscle tone and not being able to activate his muscles and just being really, really weak and very, very sleepy.
Do you think the care team prepared you back then for the appointments that were going to come at you guys? Because it sounds like with that hypotonia, you'd have a lot of, whether it's speech or occupational or physical therapy and IEPs and all of that stuff. Did they prepare you for that?
No, that would have been helpful. I think we probably knew by the time we left. We didn't have a diagnosis, but I think we knew by the time we left for sure that we'd have OT on the outside. We were working with a OT that specialized in feeding that whole month. And we were going to work with her again as an outpatient initially until we found somebody else who would come to the home. We knew that we'd have physical therapy. I don't remember if they talked about speech therapy. And I knew we were going to see a urologist and a GI doctor because of his feeding tube.
Okay.
I feel like we saw so many, and then of course we saw a PWS expert at UCLA. Thankfully, there was one in Los Angeles at the time.
Oh my gosh.
And we saw him for a few years till he moved out of state. And we knew we'd see a geneticist. So our first year was full of specialist visits. I wish I had counted how many appointments we had the first year, including all the therapies and all the specialists. And it was a lot. I don't think we were prepared. We heard a lot of, I've never heard of this before. Oh, there was a page in our textbook about that. Oh, back in medical school, maybe we heard that over and over in the hospital from different medical professionals. It was not comforting at all.
No. That doesn't feel good.
We were scared. So we were scared that if that was going to be our story, we were going to be glad to have an answer.
Yeah.
But also, what is this? And I refused to look anything up while I was in the hospital. I didn't want my husband to print out anything and bring it to me.
Yeah.
I didn't want to look at anything until we knew, because I was just afraid it would worry me and panic me. And I was already worried and sad and exhausted and pumping every 3 hours.
Oh my gosh. So tell us a bit about Prader-Willi Syndrome and what it looks like for Ryan.
So it's a long answer. Because of the hypotonia, you're focused on all the milestones. So you have OT, occupational therapy, you have physical therapy focusing on gross motor skills, initially occupational therapy just focusing on feeding, and then down the road it's fine motor skills. And then we added speech therapy probably by age 1, which for some is early. We fought to get it. And we had therapists just in and out of our house for Ryan's first 3 years. I was there. I mean, there are wonderful center-based places where I live, but I think I was grateful because of Luke being 2.5. I didn't want to cart him around everywhere. And I could go and play with him a little bit while a therapist was working with Ryan. I'd sit in some, learn some exercises, check in, but at least I could be at home and Luke could be at home and I wasn't running him all over the place 3 to 6 times a week, depending on how often the therapists were coming. So Ryan was very low tone. In Prader-Willi syndrome, it is a spectrum disorder. So you have some kids who might be able to syringe feed. You have not that many that bottle feed. Well, no, there's a handful that do bottle feed. I would say it's harder to nurse. And then there are many that end up with a feeding tube. I don't have the percentages memorized anymore, but Ryan had a feeding tube for 1 whole year. So that is how low tone he was. Also, the averages in sitting at 1, walking at 2 is the average in PWS without growth hormone. With growth hormone, it usually accelerates it a little bit. Ryan started growth hormone at 10 weeks of age because there's a deficiency and it's required. And without it, he would be short for the family. It's not dwarfism, but my husband and I are both tall, and without growth hormone, let's say Ryan would end up being 5'5", which would be short for our family. Also, the growth hormone helps them gain lean muscle mass, and it does help with coordination and some of their milestones. Ryan didn't walk till he was 3, though. We had all the interventions. We had growth hormone when he was 2.5 years old every day, gave him a shot, and he still didn't walk till he was 3. So he was really impacted with the hypotonia. That's the focus in the early years. And then in childhood, an insatiable food drive kicks in. So that means that the brain and the body do not tell you that you're full. And that, coupled with underlying obsessiveness and anxiety, leads to food-seeking behavior, which is life-threatening. And that's the part that we read about when he was born. You're like, here my baby can't even cry for food. He can't even cry for food. And this is going to switch. And he is at risk for literally eating himself into a medical emergency. I remember writing a letter to Oprah because I knew she was fascinated, of course, with obesity. And she did so many shows about that. And I thought, Oprah has to do a show about this. Yeah. Does she even know about this? It's one of the leading genetic causes of obesity, of morbid obesity. Does she know about this? Has she ever had anybody on her show? Dear Oprah, I started writing this letter that I never sent, but I dreamed about, raising awareness even back then.
Wow. Oh my gosh. And you never sent it?
I never sent it in.
We got to get you on her new Apple series that she's doing with like Prince Harry and Meghan. We'll get you on there.
Oh, how can we? Can we? Oh my gosh,
I don't know.
I would love to.
Who is listening? I guess if you know Oprah, Friends? You're probably not listening to this.
Dear Oprah, are you listening to us? We have a lot to say. Invite us.
We'll be right back. Hey guys, did you know Child Life on Call is more than just a podcast? We have free resources for parents, kids, and professionals. And by the way, a new app coming out in 2022. We will be partnering with facilities to empower and educate kids, parents, and the care team, and we want you to be a part of it. Sign up to have the facility you visit or work for be one of the first to have access at childlifeoncall.com.
So like I said, it's a spectrum disorder too. So you've got degrees of the food drive. It's displayed, differently among different kids. I think we talk about food more than other non-Prader-Willi families. We always have to keep to a food schedule. We have a locked kitchen. We have to reassure Ryan that we will provide his meals and snacks when schedule changes. So for example, if he and I were going to be in the car for a specialist visit and it's going to be around the 3:00 time, then of course I pack a snack for him. And of course we're talking about it because he needs reassurance that I'm going to give him his snack.
So when that starts in childhood, like you described, does he have the communication skills to tell you that he's hungry? Is he able to talk with you?
Yes, Ryan was communicating. It took a long time, and it was definitely different than Luke and Kate, for sure, who were probably speaking in sentences at 18 months. But he is not one who has really uttered the phrase, I'm hungry, a ton. It's interesting because there are differing points of view. Is it true hunger or just a lack of satiety? Either way, it leaves them wanting.
Sure.
So he will have a hard time waiting for food. So if we have a family dinner or we're having a family party, we will probably feed him early at 5 because that's kind of when he usually eats anyway, Monday through Friday. And we always say we're having a family dinner, special dinner, family party. We can either feed you whatever at 5 or you can wait for the good stuff, like if we're grilling or having something more special. And he most often will choose to eat it at 5.
Yeah.
So it's very hard for him to wait. It's very hard. There's definitely anxiety when there's food out. The food drive has definitely altered our life. We don't go to restaurants with Ryan. We avoid parties with him. We'll get a sitter, leave him behind. For Ryan, his food drive was a slow burn. So we could take him for many years, and then it just got to a point where we're not going to restaurants anymore. We're not taking him to parties if we can help it. we try to host a lot of family things at our house so I can sweep up the food and put it away. So it's not sitting out because it's just too anxiety provoking for him. And we also don't really take family trips altogether because it just doesn't seem to work. One-on-one, he seems to do okay. So we try to do that with him. I took him on a little trip in March just to give the family a break and to give him a change of scenery. And he did well one-on-one. But as a family, it's complicated for a multitude of reasons. So we just don't all go. And back to describing PWS, it affects their cognition and academics. And again, it's a spectrum. With Ryan, we knew probably by 3rd or 4th grade, he wasn't going to get his high school diploma. And we accepted it because, yes, we could have spent $1 million in tutoring, but at the end of the day, I don't think he would have tolerated that. And one of the gifts of special needs motherhood is a shift in priority and perspective and purpose. And you just want your child to be happy, safe, and stable. And I don't mean you just like throw in the towel, but we knew that it wasn't necessary to just push and push and push and push and make sure he got a high school diploma. We just want him to be happy. We just want him to be stable. We just want him to be safe.
Oh my gosh, that is so beautiful. Oh, I love how you put that as a gift. So much.
You don't see it as a gift, though, Katie. I didn't see it as a gift. I was resentful. I was bitter. I was angry. I still have moments that I get angry about it and how it's altered our life and how it affects Luke and Kate, the stress that's there. The anxiety, I feel like, is harder to live with even than the food drive. It's hard to know.
That's something I'd love to chat with you about. Is you've mentioned his anxiety a few times, and what are his coping skills when he gets overly anxious? What helps him in those moments?
It's hard. It's hard. He has been taught a lot, but for him to access them in the moment is so difficult. Sometimes if you go with the upset is sort of a phrase that we've learned in Prader-Willi Syndrome behavior training, and you just kind of validate and empathize, that might work because they feel heard. Doesn't always work with Ryan. Distraction with sports because he loves to talk sports. So my husband is awesome at distracting him with something about sports and to shift his mind. Sometimes you literally just have to ride the storm. You know that it's fatigue. We call it irrational anxiety caused by fatigue. And it happens often at the end of the day. It can happen at the middle of the day if he hasn't had a nap because he naps every day, usually once or twice a day. And it does not interfere with his sleep because he's just fatigued. It's part of PWS. And sometimes though, if he hasn't had enough rest, and the fatigue just causes this irrational anxiety where he's complaining about who knows what and everything. And you're just thinking, go to sleep. You just need a nap or just go to bed. Just go to bed. Go to bed at 6 o'clock, because you're so irrational that sometimes he'll send himself to his own room crying and he just needs to fall asleep and he'll be a new person when he wakes up.
And so what are your coping skills? I can't compare what you're going through to anything, but I'm in this 3 and 5-year-old stage, or how old my kids are, and they'll just lose their SHIT and then I lose my SHIT. And, your Ryan is 18 now. And so what have you learned to help yourself calm in those moments?
It's still hard. I've been through so much. I should have my degree in behavior training, behavior modification.
You do have it. So we're just going to give it to you.
Yes, by proxy, right? I know. And my kids and my husband. We all do.
Yeah.
It's hard. Sometimes I'm patient and I can have compassion. And sometimes I'm so upset that here we go again. Here we go again, him being demanding, him being so difficult and oppositional, and it pushes my buttons. So sometimes I'm like, I just go into this like zone where I'm just really trying to be controlled. Yeah. And then other times I'm yelling, I think I would be a lot worse off if I didn't do any kind of self-care, if I didn't do any kind of exercise, if I didn't do anything to keep my wits about me and really sustain my mind and emotions for the long haul of caregiving. I would probably be a mess or an alcoholic, to be honest, because it's very stressful.
Well, thank you for saying that, because I think so often we can think, I need to get to a place where this doesn't affect me, where I can handle it all. And that, like, you're telling us that does not exist. You're 18 years in, and you can still have moments where you yell. Mm-hmm. And so rather than trying to achieve this perfection of handling this kind of stress, we just have to learn to accept where you are when you're there, right?
Yes.
It's like, it's impossible.
Yes. I think it's really important to have realistic expectations on yourself as a mother, as a human being. I call myself a recovering perfectionist, and I thank Ryan for that. Honestly, it really woke me up to a lot. Having a child with extra and extreme needs and an altered family life, and we do ourselves such a disservice when we place all these unrealistic expectations of what a good mother is like.
I know.
A good mother does this. A good mother does not do this.
I recently just had to break up with like books at bedtime, and it just breaks my heart because it's like one of my most treasured moments, but like getting into bed and having to read 3 books to my 3-year-old makes me want to gouge my eyes out. And so we find another time in the day to read books together because I cannot do it at bedtime anymore. I just can't. But like I've been telling myself I have to be a good mother. I have to read her 3 books. Like it's crazy.
I know. Why do we do that to ourselves?
Why?
If you're spending quality time in another part of the day doing something that she loves, if she loves that, who said it has to be at night?
I know. You're right.
Right?
And I'm less stressed because I'm not having to read,
Yep.
Frickin' Elma goes to the potty. It just is like a better night for me.
Right. We're so exhausted at the end of the day. We're so done. We're so ready for our kids to go to bed. And you know what? It's okay to do the happy dance when they're all down.
Yeah.
You are not a bad mom. You are not a bad mom.
Yes.
Like, I mean, I always joke on the first day of school, mimosas anyone, like after they leave, because it's okay. Yeah. We love our kids.
Oh,
we would kill anyone who harmed them, right?
Yes.
But we're also humans, and we need breaks, and we need space, and we need to remember that we're women, and,
I'm right there with you. Well, speaking of women, I want to get to talking about We Are Brave Together, but I have one more question for you, about Ryan's experience and y'all's experience. And now that he is 18, I can imagine, like, when you have an infant who's diagnosed with this, you're like, well, when he's 18, where am I going to be? And is he still going to live with us? And what's going to be happening then? And I would love for you to share where you're at as a family and Ryan still being a part of your household and how that has processed within you.
Right. So in the beginning, it's all the what ifs.
Yeah.
And how is this going to play out? Where is Ryan going to fall on the spectrum? What will he be able to do? What will he not be able to do? Because of the food drive, until there's a drug that suppresses it, even if you're super high functioning going to college with PWS, because of that food drive, you have to be watched 24/7. So, when we received the diagnosis, we were just, in a fog of what ifs. And here we are. Ryan is a sweetheart. He is grateful. He is happy if you give him workbooks and clothes and audiobooks for his birthday. He doesn't have a phone because I don't know what he would do with it. I can't trust him that he wouldn't just call 911 for fun.
Yeah.
And he will get his certificate in a year. So he is going to be a senior.
Oh, wow.
And then, because he's getting his certificate versus a high school diploma, he gets to stay with the school district until he's 22. So he'll go into the transition to independence program for 3 years. And our day-to-day life looks like, of course, with everyone, he was at home because of COVID. And then he started to get to go a little bit last probably November of 2020. And then it increased towards the end of the year, maybe March, where he was able to go back for full days or almost full days. And then it finally got to full days. So that was a nice progression back to school and a nice break for the family, to be honest. And we could have the kitchen unlocked for 4 to 6 hours and knew that he was happy and safe and stable at school. Summers are hard. He'll go to, he'll have extended school year. We call it summer school for 6 weeks. And then August is always a hard month before he goes back because there doesn't seem to be quite enough to do. But he loves to watch sports. He loves to go on walks and hikes. He loves to walk the dogs with babysitters and caregivers. We hire teenagers to play with him and babysit, hang out with him. We use all our respite hours, every month, and just keep him going. Keep him going.
I love his little personality loving audiobooks. I think that's so cool. That's so, because I also do. So I get Ryan.
Yeah, he doesn't really, he couldn't tell you what the book is about, but he sure likes to listen to it.
I love it.
And he likes to read books, and he likes to read history books.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
But I don't know that he doesn't really retain anything, but
he's able to read them. That's pretty impressive. If I picked up a historical novel right now, I don't know how much I would retain either, honestly.
Well, me too, to be honest. Yeah.
So tell me about, you received a phone call when Ryan was diagnosed, and it kind of, you talked a little bit about just this wanting to do more and provide more resources, and tell me what you have created.
So because of my experiences, I had received a mentor right away from the Prader-Willi California Foundation. We joined a support group. By the time Ryan was 2 months old, we were just all in. We're very social. We're very community-oriented group people. We're joiners. And we were like, we don't want to be alone. We don't want to feel alone. So we jumped in and we found our tribe. And then when Ryan entered the school district, we found our tribe there, because that's a whole nother thing. It's not just the syndrome, but also navigating, as you know, IEPs, services, goals, getting what he needs, which schools should he be at within our school district. So we found our people there too. And I have just always benefited from those connections, those really wonderful connections with moms or couples who get it and who understand. And knowing that I was not alone this whole time, even though there are lonely moments, even though there are times where you have to just walk your journey step by step, even though you've got your supportive people out there, you still have to do your journey. But knowing that they're out there protecting you, surrounding you, it makes all the difference. And so I love the friendship of women. I'm passionate about it. I have long-standing relationships with childhood friends, high school friends, college friends, and then mom friends I made along the way. And I just believe that women have so much to offer each other when they leave behind comparison and competition. We have so much to offer each other. So I wanted to create a community where moms of children with any need, any diagnosis, any extra challenge, extreme need, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be Prader-Willi syndrome, could come together and be surrounded by women who have a common thread and who understand and support and high five and say, yeah, I get it. And yeah, there are days that completely suck and it's an SHIT storm at my house too. And you know what? I see you and I understand you and I get you and I'm here for you. And so I launched We Are Brave Together in July of 2017 with a ton of passion. I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew I had to start something for moms. And I knew I wanted to do support groups and retreats. And so we launched with a list of maybe 100, 125 moms who said they were interested when I had been polling that year. And we launched. And then early 2018, we got our nonprofit status and started fundraising. And I want to say thank you to my husband for supporting me and funding We Are Brave until we got our nonprofit status and started fundraising.
Yeah.
And, he supported this dream of mine, and he's our attorney. And there would be no We Are Brave without Ryan or without my husband, because, I needed somebody behind me. And I found great board members, and things just started really picking up. And now we're at almost 1,300 moms internationally.
What?
And we have satellite support groups popping up everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
And it's been amazing. And so our goal is to combat the isolation and compassion fatigue that caregiving mothers face. We offer support groups, workshops, retreat scholarships. And for the last year, we've had the Brave Together podcast, which has been the joy of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, We Are Brave Together is the joy of my life. And, for all those listeners out there, I'm not saying you have to start a nonprofit, but something beautiful can come out of something that is so scary and brutal and life altering.
Yeah.
And I am a living, breathing testament of that.
Oh, that is so true. You are so inspiring. So if moms who are listening, and I know that they are, want to get involved with We Are Brave Together and they're not in LA, how do they get started with a community near them?
So first step would be to go to our website, wearebravetogether.com.
Okay.
And just join. There's a little pop-up form, join the community. You'll receive our emails and newsletters. We also have a private Facebook group that you can join. You have to request to be added into that. That's part of that online intake form. And that's a great way to be connected across the miles. And we are starting more and more satellite support groups all over. And we're international now. I've had interest in Australia. We just launched in Canada. Wow. We can start a support group anywhere. We're trademarked. We've got our system in place. So we've got mentors and trainers for the support group leaders. And it's if anyone's listening and they want to start a support group, you don't have to be a therapist. You don't have to be a life coach. You don't have to be a mother to an adult child with 20 years experience. It's just somebody who wants to create a safe space for moms to share and to vent, and to know that they're not alone. And we offer Zoom, and we're moving back to in-person. So we'll offer both.
Yeah. Okay.
And everything that we're doing is on our website in terms of support groups, workshops, inspirational events, and retreats.
Okay. I just love that so much. So wearebravetogether.com.
Oh, and Instagram.
And Instagram.
Instagram, yeah. At We Are Brave Together. And our podcast is called Brave Together with Jessica Patay. It's on iTunes and Spotify. We have a little link tree on our Instagram page that sends you everywhere. So just look for that.
Great. So I'm going to include all of that on the show notes so people can easily just get there. But I would love to ask you one more question before we close here. If you could think about one thing, even though I know one thing is really hard, it could be a few. One thing that Ryan has taught you over these past 18 years, what would you say that it would be?
I'm getting choked up. Is that they change us. We try to change them, and we're trying to help them. We're trying to, in some ways, normalize, even though we don't really want to say that out loud or think that out loud. It's like we're trying so hard to help them to be as typical or have as typical life in some ways, not completely, because you get to a place of acceptance, right? Like I said earlier in our conversation, but Ryan has changed me. And that is the greatest gift. I am a better, softer, sensitive, more compassionate. I understand what crisis is all about. I'm sensitive to people in crisis. I know that it feels like you're halted in the middle of a highway with cars blitzing by happily, and you're just halted and scared and just in a fog of worry and grief. And so he changed me. So even though we try to help our children grow and progress, they grow us up.
Yeah. Oh, that's so well said. Well, thank you so much, Jessica. Is there anything else that you would like to share? Any other resources you'd recommend, or a story that I didn't ask you about that you wanted to tell everybody about?
Oh, gosh. There are so many resources. And so I would say, when and if you're ready, if you're in that new diagnosis stage, reach out for those, Facebook groups or support groups that meet in person. Reach out for We Are Brave. We're always posting resources that there's really endless resources. You don't have to do it alone. And you do not need to be a martyr mom. You do not need to sacrifice your own marital health, emotional health, mental health, spiritual health, and physical health just because you have a child who requires so much. So remember that you are the most important person if you're the primary caregiver, and that you do need to take care of yourself, whatever that looks like, whether it's in bite-sized amounts or 30 minutes of meditation a day, whatever it looks like for you. Just know that there are resources. You're not alone. You don't have to do this alone, and you don't need to be a martyr. Yeah. Ask for help.
I couldn't agree more. And those thoughts, they creep up. They just come in your head when you're least expecting them. Like, oh, I don't deserve to go to the girls' night because I have this and that, and at least I showered yesterday, and all of these little excuses. But you just look at them head on and recognize them as those are not true statements, and you can make it work with the help around you.
Yes, and you will meet amazing people who love your child genuinely, tremendously, and you will just be blown away by the people who choose to work with special needs children, teenagers, and adults. So let them in your life, and trust that they're really there to support you and care for your child, and go take a break.
Thank you so much, Jessica Patay from We Are Brave Together, for letting me interview you and share your story about your family and Ryan and you as an amazing mom. I love the do not be a martyr mom thing. I think we should make that into a bumper sticker. I think it applies for a lot of parents out there. So, guys, if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to Child Life on Call. Make sure you're sharing. Make sure you're giving this gift to other people so that they can listen and be informed and find connection and all of the good things that this podcast brings. I will see you guys next week for another 12-minute talk. Really short 12-minute episode where I answer parent questions with other child life experts, questions that I've gotten over the past 10 years or more about really hard topics that are difficult to talk about with your children. So it's a quick episode next week, and then we'll be back. All right, guys, have a great week, and I will see you again soon. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Child Life on Call podcast. I'm your host, Katie Taylor, and you can follow us at Child Life on Call on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please rate and review to make it easier for other families to find us. We have cute merch available at www.bonfire.com/store/childlifeoncall, and you can listen to more episodes and find resources at childlifepodcast.com. For those of you who are joining us today, I am not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I am a child life specialist. And the suggestions and tips and resources that I talk about with parents on this podcast may be great for you and they may not be right for you. So, the most important person you can talk to about getting support is your care team, your doctor who knows your story and your child's story. So, regardless of maybe what I mention or what other families mention here, we're not licensed therapists, we're not doctors. We're having a conversation about what the parenting journey has been like. So, please keep that in mind as you listen today.